All righty. Thank you so much for having us here. My name is Alice Jang. I'm an assistant professor at the IT department. So we also have Mashio there, who's a great collaborator. So today we'll be presenting this ongoing project. Thanks to the support from ICAT, we were able to run a couple of experiments. So the title of this project is the effect of integrating GenAI, or AI chatbot, into collaborative learning and problem solving. Now, the question is pretty simple. The question is, what happens when an AI becomes part of a team? And we are seeing this everywhere. We are seeing this from the students learning, and then as well as the organizations when they try to collaborate. So what has been known is that AI can offer potential for helping to facilitate teamwork, basically make things easier, particularly in dynamic environments in which people have to learn fast. Now, we want to ask this claim by looking into our problems. So as this statement say, there are a lot of companies that are implementing GenAI or AI in any part of their business functions. And notice that the numbers kind of went up to 70% from in the year 2024. So a lot of companies are implementing these GenAI or AI while they're communicating with one another or for analytical purposes. We're also seeing a lot of technologies out there. I'm not sure if in our Microsoft Teams, you can also integrate the AI while you're doing it. There's been the integration of AI in Slack, as well as in like other softwares that allow us to collaborate while having the AI as part of the team. So this is a bit different from how we use ChatGPT, for example, right now, where we talk to ChatGPT individually and then come together as people, and then we kind of talk to one another. This is more like at the team level, AI comes in and then helps you out. So again, the question is pretty simple. What happens? And can adding an AI teammate help groups solve problems better? That's like the very critical question. And we also wanted to figure out when it helps and when it does not help us figure things out. So what do we mean by better? So better means that the number of interactions between people is high, meaning that we have learning opportunities from each other. Another thing to measure, another measurements that we can kind of think of is like new solutions being explored. How do we brainstorm using AI? And if there are more new solutions that are out that we can generate using the AI, we can assume that the performance is getting better. The last one is like, of course, for the problems in which we can tell if we're getting it correct or not, we can think about the percentage of people who are getting it correct. Okay, so this slide will take some time. So we have 3 conditions. The first one that is stated as chatbot, the control uses AI chatbot as a repository. You can think of this as the traditional way of working. For example, think about the times before ChatGPT came into our lives. We used to search things on Google, and then people come together and they work on problems. The second one, which is called as treatment 1, uses the individual use separate AI chatbot. So this is what currently is happening a lot of times. People are using AI, the ChatGPT, on their own, and then they come together and then we work. The last part is the thing that the software that a lot of organizations are now implementing, which is at the team level, we're now having an AI chatbot that are being shared. Meaning, if I talk to the chatbot, the other person can also see the result, and then they kind of figure out, consider this AI chatbot as if it's another person. So this is the interesting part. So in order to test this idea, whether the AI can help us solve problems, what we did was we designed a problem, which is a murder mystery. Now, at the surface level, it resembles the board game named Clue. However, the thing is, like, people have to identify the culprit and the murder weapon by collecting the data using the AI chatbot, and then they gotta interact with another person in order to figure out the answer. So the parts, because there are tons of evidence out there for this task, people have to search for the evidence, share findings that they have, and submit what they think. Now, AI serves as an information source or a collaborative partner. For the first one, the traditional way of collaboration, it would serve as like a Google search. Whereas for the other two, it's gonna pretend it's like as if it's like a collaborative partner. All right, so this is what's happening in our treatment one, in which each person gets one ChatGPT, the AI chatbot, and then they have to talk to one another. Notice that for each, this is person one and that is person two, and we just put them in parallel just to show you how it works in the back end. The first one is the chat room on the left-hand side is a chat room that you can use in order to talk to another person. The chat room on the right-hand side is the chat room that they're going to be using with the AI chatbot. So the one that you're seeing in the green box, it kind of goes through the case, and then people have to kind of collect the evidence while they're trying to solve this problem. And then while doing that, you can also submit the message to another detective. And apparently this is two different people. The AI behaves more like I don't know, what is this? So once that message is sent, the other person can see this message, and then they can collaborate and then solve this murder mystery together. Once they're done with solving this mystery case, then they can submit their hypotheses underneath that, which is the culprit box and the murder weapon box. Now, murder weapon task, identifying the murder weapon, is a bit easier than identifying the culprit because there are only two potential answers. Whereas for the culprit, because there are 5 suspects in our case, it's really difficult to identify the culprit. So that's what it looks like. And let's take a look into one of the interactions that people had in treatment 2, in which people had the shared AI chatbot. So on the right-hand side, you see that there are two detectives, and then they can talk to the chatbot. And notice that for the detective 1, once it asks the question, then the AI chatbot shows the answer, and the other person can also see the answer as well. This is very similar, and it also resembles how we are going to be working when we have all the AIs coming into the collaborative softwares. On the left-hand side, we see the conversation between 2 human detectives that are not interrupted by the AI. And through this, they can share what kind of keywords that they're searching or the prompt that they'll be using in order to retrieve the information that they need. Or they can try to also coordinate the pieces of information that they've gotten in order to minimize the duplicated evidence that they search. So we ran this over the online platform, and here is our first preliminary result, which is that, okay, if people start implementing AI chatbot into their system while they're collaborating with one another, we noticed that the number of interactions between people decreased significantly. And this is case in both, in cases in which people use AI chatbots separately, they use independent chatbots, or when they integrate the chatbot into their team. What does this mean? We can think of this let's take this to the classroom setting, for example. What this means is that as soon as the ChatGPT became available, students stopped learning from one another and they stopped talking to one another. That's basically what it means. At the organization level, people are supposed to talk to one another and then generate new ideas. That is not happening. All right, the other one that we care about is, okay, when people brainstorm, when they're trying to solve this complex problem, how many new set of solutions did they generate? Turns out that when people are interacting with one another, we have approximately about 7.2 answers being submitted. However, in the case of the team that shares an AI chatbot, it decreases significantly. So we see that people are a bit more coordinated, but they're not brainstorming enough to get to the answer. But then our last question was, okay, I get it. There are not enough novel solutions, but do people actually perform better or get to the correct answer? So there's like a mixed finding here. So we also had this issue in which when people are working together, one of the person just drop off in the middle. Therefore, we lost a lot of sample. And some of the people were just not collaborating. So let's try to focus on the other two settings in which we had the traditional collaboration and the other one, the futuristic collaboration, I would call it. Now, in the case of like a easy task, or in which people just have to search for the keyword and they get the answer quickly, like talking, like the control group had much higher correct rate. On the other hand, for the difficult one, we have the correct rate going up when they're integrating the AI chatbot into their system. Now, what this means is that, let's try to go back here. So what this means is that as people are trying to use the AI chatbot, they stop talking to one another, and the fact is that the easy task doesn't even need a lot of thinking process. It's so easy. But they stop thinking, they stop talking to one another when AI chatbot is integrated into the system. And instead, they rely on the AI chatbot they have integrated in the system, and therefore they only get the difficult questions right, but not the easy ones. Okay, so what's the takeaway here? Super easy. So AI teammate can help the group get to the solution faster. That was another result that we had. But then there's a catch here, but not in generating new solutions. People come to the same solution, they just dwell on it, and they stop generating new solutions. Also, it's not suitable to implement AI chatbot in the easy tasks in which people can just use their own judgment. They can just talk to one another just to figure the solution out. However, they stop doing that as soon as the AI chatbot is integrated into the system. So just 3 key takeaways here is that adding AI reduces human interaction, and this less interaction means there's less peer learning happening between people, which is apparent, which is like obvious. And the team with a shared AI could reduce the the generation of new solutions. We stop brainstorming, we do not come up with new ideas anymore. 3, the AI isn't ideal for every task. We gotta think very careful about when to integrate AI, especially when we can just take a look into the task and then just solve it with people talking to one another. It's more suited that way. However, for simple tasks in which human judgment would work, integrating AI just increases over-reliance on this AI and then reduces the percentage of getting us to the correct answer. So yeah, those are the key takeaways. So what's happening right now is that we have designed a new set of tasks for this. If you want to solve the murder mystery together with the AI chatbot with another person, come to the Playdate on Monday, right? On Monday from 3 to 5. We will be setting up all our experiments, and you will be able to try this task and then see how far the AI chatbot can get you. All right, that's all. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for sharing with us. And that is ICAT Day on Monday, 3 to 5. So I'm excited. I'm going to play. What questions do we have in the room or online?
My last question. That was a very interesting work, as usual here. So not surprising that AI reduces problem solving because in some ways it's so intimidating. Like if I ask it to write something, it'll do it in 30 seconds. It'll be better than what I would do probably. Could you use this as a way to inform groups of whether they need AI or not?
That's a very good question. So initially what we had in our mind was that we can measure the proficiency in people in doing these kind of tasks. We kind of omitted that because this was like a preliminary study, but we'll think about like including that into part of the study because it seems like, based on other studies as well, that the level of each individual determines how people use AI as well as when they delegate their decision to the AI. So, yeah.
Hi, I was wondering if you did any controls or A/B testing on how prompts were worded when generating solutions, because I know that using AI agents or LLMs, like the words that you use in the prompt can really change the results, especially as far as generating new solutions or novel solutions or more solutions.
Yeah, we've run a bunch of tests for this task. Mashio can answer that question because he did all that work.
Hi, I'm Mashio, the second author. Yes, we did. It's also interesting because the control that we essentially had a chatbot that just gave you all the information that you had, which led to a lot of frustration amongst people. They had this expectation that you had to have a chatbot that's very engaging with you, and so you saw that reflected in the prompts as well. I think one of the feedback that we got was this chatbot was not particularly useful, but they got both the answers correct. So I think there's a lot of interesting dynamics here that we would need to explore, but yeah.
I was going to ask about the concept of learning. I mean, here, first of all, this was terrific. I took lots of pictures, and this is an amazing talk and amazing research. The concept of learning, here it's really problem solving and learning to solve the problem of the game. I'm wondering, as it relates to learning of the individual, and I know you haven't had a chance to think about it, just came to my mind, the people come into it with a certain knowledge, that, and it's different, but they come in with a certain knowledge, and then they leave with a certain knowledge. And I wonder, with the dependency on using AI, whether that knowledge difference might drop. If you play Clue a ton of times, you learn more and more about how to play Clue, and I don't know, but I wonder about the effect of having this collaborative partner that's so good, whether it affect the actual learning of the individuals in the task. Uh-oh.
So, could you clarify?
So when you play a game over and over again as a human, see, the chatbot is learning. Mm-hmm. It's learning every single time, and it's keeping that information. The human, I'm just wondering if their learning is increasing, their knowledge is increasing as much in that teamwork with the chatbot as it would if there was no chatbot in the game. In other words, are they learning less and less? So when you, for example, you said the easy problem they already knew. Mm-hmm. That's dependent on their pre-existing knowledge. Mm-hmm. If the pre-existing knowledge gain were, for example, to drop, then easy tasks might eventually become hard as they learn less and less playing Clue by themselves. So I'm just curious if there's an area of research to go into on the actual learning of the individuals versus the learning of the chatbot?
That's a very good question. I actually have another project on that. So, yeah, how people are familiar with a task indeed affects the performance on these kind of tasks. Fortunately, we were able to build this new task every time, so we kind of make sure that the level of proficiency, hopefully they're similar to one another, because no one's familiar with this kind of task. And yeah, I have another project that is working on like how do people learn as they're using chatbot, the AI, and when the people with low proficiency, when you think about people with low domain knowledge, then do they over-rely on these AI, or do they actually learn and build that skill set so they can become a better one and use the AIs better as they learn through that? You know, thank you for the thought. Yes. Here. Wait. Okay.
Similar question based on that. If you have teams with very disparate skill sets, say low domain knowledge members and high domain knowledge members, does the AI how does the AI affect maybe the performance of those teams as opposed to teams where everyone's sort of starting from the same baseline?
Oh, that's a really good question. I think we might want to add that into our part.
I think there's only been one study.
Wait, use mic.
I think there's only been one study that's ever looked at something similar to what you've asked. I think the results were that if you were an expert in a given field, you tend to rely on it less. But again, that's one study, so hopefully we could contribute towards that as well.
Yeah, because like yesterday we did another set of analysis and then figured that there were some cases in which two people are talking to one another, or they're just exchanging information, but turns out only one person get it right. So there seems to be like a different level of performance across different individuals, and depending on how they are paired up, it kind of determines the group's performance as well.
I just have a question about, you use the clue game as a tool to solve a task. And it's kind of a combination maybe of Ben's and Gustavo's questions. When I play Clue, my goal is not to find out who won, or I mean, who the murderer was. My goal is to actually communicate with people and in a way that nobody's arguing, because we have a good set of rules. And so I wonder what the goal is for the, like, and I know we're just kind of playing with AI and a task. But the choice of the task as a board game, can you talk about how that works in a social situation?
How about you start, then Mike?
Yeah, so the clue was just an example. Sure. At the surface level, it's similar to one another, but once you play this task, the goal of the task is basically figuring out the murder weapon as well as the culprit, not exactly like incentivizing people to try to talk to one another.
To get to know each other.
Yes, that's not really the goal.
Okay.
Yep, we're also interested in how people do that, right? So that's kind of our intention here, to study how they arrive at that final solution. And so that's essentially why we picked this task.
Great, thank you. We got, okay, a couple more. Come this way.
I was just wondering, how do you think the results might change if you introduced to the chatbot, please find ways to increase human interconnectedness and communication?
But I think we should test the prompt. I think we should definitely test that prompt, because so far what we've been doing is trying to be as neutral as possible to see like what the benchmark is and how they interact. And so far we figured that just including the chatbot significantly decreases the interactions. So we might want to test that in our